Hello everyone, welcome to CrackIT. In today's video, we'll explore commonly asked interview questions related to the JWT or JSON Web Tokens. If you enjoy the content, please show your support by liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing our channel. Before we start discussing about the interview questions of JWT, I just want to let you know that we have covered a separate video for this JWT, JSON Web Tokens. Why do we need JWT? How is JWT working? What is JWT? We have explained everything in detail about the JWT in a separate video. I'll provide the link here. So if you are interested, you can go through that video before you start this interview questions series. Anyways, this interview question series is different from JWT, but for better understanding on what JWT is, you can go through this video. So let's start the discussion about the interview questions now. If you say that you have experience with the JWT, it's obvious that you can expect a question. What is a JWT first of all? What is JSON Web Token? So what is a JWT? JWT is nothing but a JSON Web Token that is used for authentication and the authorization purposes. How is this JWT token is able to handle that authentication and authorization? It is because JWT token stores the user information like the name of the user, what is the email ID of the user, what are the roles that the user has, what are the permissions that he has in that specific API, like whether read access, write access, or whether the user is a user or an admin. Likewise, it has the information to authenticate and authorize the user. Also, if you see this JWT token, the JWT token is signed with a secret key. Why do we need to sign this JWT token? It is because the signature of the JWT token is really important. Suppose say I have a JWT token, and when during the transmission of the token, some hacker has tampered my token. How can we make sure that my JWT token is not tampered, or even if it is tampered, how will the receiving API will reject that API to reject the JWT token if it is tampered? It is all because of this signature. That during the data transmission, if someone has added one more role here, how will we identify during the JWT validation? The signature is nothing but the base 64 URL encode of header, base 64 URL encode of payload, and a secret. So while the validation of the JWT token, it will compare the payload. We have a defined method in the suppose we are using Java, so we have JWT.parser, and that parser method in turn will validate the payload that it has with the payload that comes. Just now we got it. If suppose these two are not matching, what will that JWT parser method will say? It will say that the signature is not matching. So it will say that the JWT token is invalid. It will say that it is an invalid signature, and it will invalidate the token as well. So in this way, we can maintain the integrity of the data in the JWT token. So what and all we saw, JWT token is nothing but it is used for authentication and authorization. How is it performing that authentication and authorization? It is because of the claims, or it is because of the information that it has in the token. What and all the information it has the username, roles, permissions, and few other information. Also it has the signature. What is this signature? This signature is to maintain the data integrity of the token. So suppose I have a JWT token. How will this JWT token flow will work? So if suppose I'm going to access a protected resource, I will send this JWT token in the authorization header, and the API in turn will validate that JWT token. If it is valid, it will grant access to the specific resource which I am going to access. If it is not granted, it will say that this is the invalid token. You will not be able to access this specific endpoint, saying 403 forbidden. So this JWT token, what is this? What is the structure of this JWT token? It will have header dot payload dot the signature. What will this header have? Since we already see what is there in the payload and the signature, What will this header have? This header will have the algorithm and the type of this token. This type of this token is JWT, and the signing algorithm that we are going to use is HS256. And there are various other signing algorithms that we can use in our application based on our requirements. This is JWT. In this way you can explain the interviewer. So let's start discussing the next question. Can you please explain JWTs, how JWTs are used for authentication? So if you ask this question, then the interviewer is asking you to explain the complete flow on how JWT works. It's because only if you explain the complete flow, then only you will be able to explain how JWTs are used for authentication. Let's try to answer the question. So there are multiple steps involved in JWT used for authentication, and the first step will be the user authentication. What is user authentication? If suppose a user is trying to log into a web application, the user will provide the username and the password to log into that web application. That is user authentication. If suppose this user authentication is successful, then the authentication server has to create a JWT token and it needs to send to us. So basically the JWT token has the three parts, which is header, payload and the signature. So what will the payload have? So if the authentication server needs to send me that token, it needs to populate all these header, payload and signature, and then only it has to send it to me. So for that, what will the payload content? It will populate. The payload of the JWT contains the claims, which is nothing but the information about the user and few other additional data. And for the claims, we can say that some of the common claims or issuer, SUB, which is subject, EXP, which is the expiration time. Let's see all those in the next interview questions. So the payload will contain the claims, and the claims are nothing but the information about the user and few other information that is required for the JWT token. Next, what we need to do? We need to sign that token. Why do we need to sign that token? Only if we sign that token, the signature will ensure the integrity and the authenticity of the token. So the authentication server will sign the JWT token using the secret key and using a signing algorithm, or it will sign the token using the public or private key. It is completely upon the requirement of the application whether it needs to be signed using the secret key or it is signed using the public or the private key pair. But this signature ensures the integrity and authenticity of the application. What will it next do? So my payload is ready. My header will obviously be ready, because my header will contain the information about the type of the token and the algorithm it is going to use. And using that algorithm, my authentication server will sign the token and it will issue the token to the application, which is nothing but the signed JWT token is then sent back to the client as a part of this authentication response. So this is the second step. First step is logging the web application using the username and password. It is very specific for us to remember that in this entire process of using JWT for the authentication, we will use the username and the password pair only once. After all that, the authentication or the authorization will happen using the JWT token and not with the username and the password. So first step is user authentication. Second step, my authentication server validate the user credentials. If it is successful, it will return me a token with all the necessary information. Then what will happen? So the client may store the received JWT in a secured way. It has to store it in a secured way. Either it will store it in the cookie or the local storage or the session storage. So what will happen next? On the further subsequent request, to access that protected resource, that may be an API or that may be something else, to access that protected resource, it will enough if my client sends this JWT token in the authorization header. It is not necessary for my client to send the username and password. Why? Because once this token is generated, we will always use this JWT token for the authentication and the authorization purposes. So on further request, the my client will send this token that the authentication server generated to my including it in the authorization header of the HTTP request. Then what is the next step? So my resource which I am trying to access, my protected resource, got this got the request, and in the request it has this JWT token that is generated in the authorization header. So what will my protected resource will do? It will validate whether the token is valid or not. That is token verification. So what will it do? The resource server receives the JWT token in the authorization header. It verifies the signature of the JWT. So what will this token verification will do? It will verify the signature of the JWT token using the server's public key. If we uses the public key, it will verify using the public key. If we signed it using the secret, then it will verify it using the secret. So upon token verification, it will not only verify the signature, it will also validate the claims. So in claims, if suppose we have the expiration time, it will check whether the token is valid or not. If the token is not expired, only if it is not expired, it will say that the JWT token is valid. It will check whether the issuer is correct, the subject is correct, and the any other relevant claims if it is available. Next is user authorization. So we will have the information like roles, permissions in the claims of the JWT token, and based on the information in that JWT token, the resource server that we are trying to access determines whether a user is authorized to access the requested resource or not, and the decisions can be made by evaluating the user roles, permissions, and any other custom claims if anything is available. Next is nothing but the response. The resource server will respond to the client's request, providing the requested resource if the JWT is valid. If in this process, if the validation is successful, the resource server will return the response to the client, and if not, or if the JWT is expired, or if the JWT is tampered, or it doesn't have the necessary claims, the server will deny access, and this way only the JWT token is used for authentication. Each and every step is important, and all are followed in the JWT authentication. We just now discussed how JWTs perform authentication. We are now going to discuss how JWTs is performing authorization. So we know that the JWT token has the roles and permissions in it. Suppose let's consider this JWT token wherein in the JWT payload we have the roles and the permissions. The roles says the user has the user role and the admin role, and the permissions he has or read and write access for these two specific roles. So these are the claims that can be used by the resource server to make the authorization decisions. So we just now discussed how JWT tokens perform authentication. Let's now discuss in detail about how JWT tokens perform the authorization. So as we all know, JWT token will have all the relevant information that is required for authorization in the payload. So first step is token verification and the validation. The server will receive the JWT token in the authorization header. The first thing it will do is it will extract the JWT token from the authorization header, and then it will validate the JWT token to ensure its data integrity, meaning it will verify whether its signature is valid or not. If its signature is valid, then it will ensure that it is from a valid user, and it will ensure the integrity and authenticity of the JWT token. So this is the first step. Then what will it do? It will decode the JWT token, and it will pick all the necessary claims. Suppose this is the decoded JWT token. If we see this, we can clearly see that it has the user roles and permissions defined in the payload, defined in the claims of the JWT token. So next is the user roles and the permissions. So all the information that is required for authorization, like roles and permissions, is available in the JWT token itself. Also, like the scoping claims, this scoping claim is similar to that of the permissions claims. If we are not using permissions claims, we can use scope claims. Even in the scope claims, it will have the values like read, write, and for the roles, if you see, we have values like user, admin, and whichever the roles we want to include, we can provide those roles here. And for the permissions or scopes, we can provide whether they have read access or write access, or read write access, read only access, write only access. All those information will be provided either in the permissions claims or in the scoping claims. Also, we can have custom claims in our JWT token. If you see here, we have the custom data, key 1 value 1, key 2 value 2. We didn't define any specific customs claims here, but just for an example, I have mentioned like this, meaning we can have custom claims in the JWT token. Suppose for this example, let's assume we have this user belongs to the department of software engineering. We can provide the key 1 as department and the value 1 as software engineering, and we can provide that claim here. So sorry, we can provide that claim here. Next is the claims validation. So token is verified and the token is validated using the signature. So we decoded the token, we fetched all the necessary claims, then we need to validate all the claims that is available. So we need to validate whether the role that is mentioned in the token is valid to access the requested server or not, whether they have the required permission to this requested server or not, and what are the custom claims, like whether the requested resource is belong to the department software engineering or not. All those things we will validate in the claim validation, along with a few other claims like exp, whether this token is not expired, whether this token is intended to this user, to this audience. All those validations we will perform as the next step. The next is authorization decision. Yes, the based on the information that we got from the JWT, the resource server will make the authorization decision. It determines whether the user identified by the JWT has the necessary roles, permissions, or other criteria to access the resource. Next is conditional access. The resource server may implement conditional access control based on the information in the JWT. For example, it might allow certain actions or data access only if specific claims or conditions are met. As I told earlier, like this, if this specific thing, if this specific custom claim is for the department software engineering, it will make the decisions based on the conditional, it will provide conditional access as well. This is how, these steps are all involved in the JWT authorization process. First, it will extract the token, validate the token, decode the token, extract all the claims, then it will validate the claims and make a decision based on the claims validation. So what are the advantages of the JWT token? If we are using JWT token in our application, if we say that if we are using JWT token in our application, the question we may expect is, what are the advantages in it and why are you using it in your application? So the first thing that should come to your mind is it's compact and self-contained. Yes, JWTs are compact data structures and it is self-contained. What does this self-contained mean? It has all the information that is required for the authentication within itself. So it will not force the server to store any session data about the user. It has all the information that is required for the authentication within itself. This feature of self-contained has made the JWT so powerful. It's because it can be used in the distributed systems, or the applications using the JWT token can be scaled that easily. So this is the main advantage of the JWT token. Next is efficient transmission. JWT tokens are meant to transfer over the network. In the microservices architecture, it's very important for the tokens to transmit in the network due to its compact nature, and this JWT token can be the part of the headers, URLs are the part of the API request, and this specific feature has made beneficial in the modern distributed systems where the network efficiency is really crucial, since it is designed to easily transmit over the network, which has made the efficient transmission. Next is stateless authentication. Yes, as we just stated while explaining self-contained, JWT tokens or stateless authentication, which supports stateless authentication. The server will not keep track of the user's session data, and each JWT token have all the necessary information for authentication, which reduces the reliability on the server side storage and makes it easier to scale applications horizontally. Yes, that's what we discussed in self-contained as well. Next is decentralized authorization. This decentralized authentication is the mainly beneficial for the microservices. JWT allows for the decentralized authentication. It's obviously is because the JWT token has all the necessary information in itself. It supports decentralized authentication, and which enables the different services or microservices to independently verify the authenticity of the user. It's not that it is a centralized thing. No, each and every microservices, when it receives the token, it can perform its authentication by that time, as long as these services, the microservices, share the same secret or have access to the same public key. They can validate and trust the JWT without the need for the centralized session management. Next is yes, JWT tokens are flexible and extensible. It's because in the payload we can have any number of we just discussed, we can have these custom claims in our payload, which makes our JWT token to be flexible and extensible, even though the authorization methods or the authentication methods is different while using the distributed systems. Next is security through the signatures. Yes, this we obviously know. This is why, because the data integrity, the integrity of the JWT token is because of the signatures in the JWT token. So it's the signatures that ensure the data integrity and authenticity. It is because the signature is generated using a secret key or a public private key pair, depending on the signing algorithm. This mechanism of signature validating the signature prevents tampering any unauthorized modifications to the token. If anything is tampered, the signatures will not match and the JWT token will become invalid. Next is standardization. It's obvious that JWT follows some standard RFC 7519, which is widespread and that is adopted by various platforms and programming languages. So JWT token is standardized. Next is token expiration and refreshing. As we all know, we can have this EXP in our JWT token so that the token will not be valid for much time, which makes this JWT token to be automatically expired after the specified time. Also, this token refreshing mechanisms that is available can be implemented to obtain a new JWT without requiring the user to re-enter the credentials. So these are all the benefits of the JWT token. Even though the token is expired, it's not necessary that the user has to provide the credentials. Instead, they can use this refresh token to get a new token. This is a straightforward question you may get, which is nothing but how can you validate your JWT token? It's very simple. First step is we need to check the token format, whether the token has header.payload.signature format. We need to ensure that it has the proper format. Second, we are going to decode the JWT token. Yes. So we need to decode the JWT token to extract the header in the payload. The header typically contains the information about the algorithm used for signing. Then with the algorithm that we extracted from the header, we need to verify the signature. So if the JWT is signed, obviously if it is signed, then we need to verify the signature using the algorithm that is specified in the header. This involves taking the how will we verify? We will take the base 64 decoded header, base 64 decoded payload, and concatenate them with a period in between, and then we will verify the signature using the provided key. The key can be a secret key or a public private key pair. That's depending on us based on the signing algorithm. So we will verify the signature. That is the third step. Next, we will verify whether the token is valid or not using the EXP claim. Next, we will make sure that if the NBF claim is present, we need to ensure that the token is not being used before a certain time. Then we can check when the token is issued at. We can verify whether the token is intended to the specified audience or not. We can check whether the user is like we can check the what is it issuer claim. We can check the issuer claim to verify that the token was issued by the trusted party or not. And if we have some additional checks, we can verify that as well. These are all the steps that are involved in validating the JWT token. It's a straightforward question. So you may get a coding question like or you may be asked how are you generating a JWT token in your application. It's very simple. If we have the necessary jars that is required for the JWT, we have a built-in method which is nothing but JWTs.builder, and we can set all the properties that we need. Suppose like all the claims that is in the payload through this method. So through code, how will we generate? Through this JWTs.builder method. To use this, we need to have all the required dependencies of the JWT token, and it's like very simple. We can set the subject using .setSubject method. We can set the issuer, issued at, expiration time, signing algorithm. If we have any secret key, we can pass that as well, and we need to provide .compact. As we know, JWT token is a compact and self-contained. We need to provide .compact. So it's very simple. Using the Java, just if you have the required dependencies, straight away we can use this method to generate a JWT token. So next question is, how will you generate a JWT token in your code? So if this is like this is very easy, generating a JWT token in a code. So if we have all the required dependencies, then it's easy to use. It's very simple in the Java code. So what are those dependencies? Those dependencies are nothing but JWT API, JWT IMPL, JWT Jackson. If we have all these three dependencies in our application, then we have a handy code which is nothing but JWTs.builder, through which we can set all the properties that we want to generate the JWT token. So JWTs.builder of set subject, we can set the subject we want, we can set the issuer, issued at, expiration, signing key, and in that we need to provide the secret or the public private key along with the algorithm that we are using. So it's straightforward generating a JWT token using code if we have all the required dependencies. So how will you validate the JWT token in your code? It's a straightforward. If we have all the necessary dependencies that is required for this JWTs, then we have a built-in method called parser builder. So we need to use that method. So which is nothing but JWTs dot parser builder of, we need to provide the signing key, and if we give dot build of and parse claims of parse claims of JWS token dot get body of, we will get all the necessary claims. After that we can chain some of its method to set the expected claims. It's straightforward. We can chain the methods for the expected claims, and that's it. We can validate it using this parser builder. How will you handle the token expiration in a JWT token? Usually the token expiration is handled by the claim, registered claim, which is nothing but EXP claim in the JWT payload, and this EXP time will be in the milliseconds. Suppose if I want to set my JWT token valid for 5 hours, then I need to specify the value as system.current time milliseconds plus this value, which is equivalent to the 5 hours. So while validation, what will happen? The server will check whether the expiration time that is in the token is greater than the current timestamp or not. If it is, the token is valid. If not, that token is not valid. If the token is expired, what do we need to do? The client may need to refresh it by obtaining a new token. If you check in this code we are providing the set expiration, and we are passing some value here which is nothing but the expiration time that I want, like the time which I want to expire the token, the time at which I want to expire the token, that value I will provide here. So it's very straightforward. We have already a claim which is nothing but the EXP claim, and we will use that for the token expiration. What is the token revocation concept in JWT token? So token revocation is nothing but invalidating a previously issued token before it expires. So I am issuing a token and that has an expiration time, but I don't want that token to be valid till that time. Even before that I want to invalidate it. How can we do that? So but JWTs are stateless, so we don't have any built-in mechanisms. But there are some strategies that we can follow to handle these revocation scenarios, and those are like short token lifetimes, which is nothing but we need to provide a small expiration time in the tokens, and token refreshing. We need to create a refresh token endpoint through which we can refresh our token. Blacklisting, if we want to provide, or if we don't want a token to be validated after the specified time, we can maintain a blacklisting API in the server side, and we can add that JTI value of the JWT token there, so that for each time when a JWT token comes, we can validate it against that stored in the server for the blacklisting. If it is present, then we need to blacklist it, meaning we will not allow that resource call. That we need to do. Or we can go for the token versioning, which is nothing but if suppose my JWT token, I want to revoke all the tokens that has version 1, then I need to use version 2 in my API, so that all the versions, all the JWT tokens with version 1s will get invalidated. That we can do. So if you want us to cover a complete video on token revocation, please let me know in the comment section. I'll cover a separate video and will provide a detailed overview of what short token lifetime is, what is blacklisting, along with the coding explanation. Please let me know in the comment section if you want to discuss any specific topics as well. If you have any specific videos, questions, or areas you would like to explore further, please feel free to leave a comment, whether it's related to the JWT interview questions, or Fiend clients, or Spring security related interview questions, microservices architecture, or Spring Crowd, or any other tech related subject. I'm here to help and discuss. Your input means a lot, so please don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comment section. Also, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for future updates. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.